almost everybody, we recommend almost all of our clients go see a nutritionist or a dietitian, and very few do because they already have so many specialists that they just can't stomach the idea of going to one more doctor to tell them what they're doing wrong.
Yeah. And I think that's important too, that you bring up, tell them what they're doing wrong, which I feel like is kind of what nutrition has turned into. Is first, I think a lot of people, they go to one person, and it tends to be a personal trainer, and that's their stress relief, their fitness expert, their dietitian, their mental health and it's somebody they pay $100 a month to work out with them, and so this person is not trained in all those things, but they're kind of covering all those areas. Nutrition isn't about telling you what you're doing wrong. It's very much about telling you what is correct, getting rid of the myths and really giving you an understanding of how food works. And what most people do is they're like, oh, these are the healthy foods, eat them. And I've come up with a term I call nutritional scapegoating, which I think is where people pick out bad guys. This is the bad guy. It's gluten, it's sugar, it's whatever. And typically it's us, like we have self-destructive behaviors. We are filling those voids with food, and we might not be able to identify it, but I'm a registered dietitian, and I gained 50 pounds after my dad died. And I mean, some of it was while he was sick with cancer, but people don't bring over quinoa tabbouleh and Caesar salad. They bring over lasagna and beers.
Yeah. Nice comfort foods.
Yeah, I'll eat the comfort food while I'm hanging out with my dad in his last days of life, but it continued afterwards. I filled that void with food, and I'm an educated dietitian, and it still happened to me. It is almost inescapable. Life ebbs and flows, but it's getting back on the horse. It's learning those patterns and responding to the behaviors and our emotions appropriately instead of letting them take control over us. And I think that's a huge part of like food behaviors, food addictions, and things like that, is someone that wants to understand you and relate to those things, as opposed to, like you said, tell you what you're doing wrong. And, I think that we as practitioners need to create a more trusting and welcoming environment where people feel like they're learning, they're not trapped, and they're not being harped on for doing something else wrong.
The idea that like, oh, because you're a dietitian or a nutritionist, you eat well all the time, you take care of your body, you're not gaining weight. Like, people have the same misconceptions about mental health professionals. We kind of joke amongst ourselves that we typically have the worst coping skills of anybody that we know, including our clients, because we're so busy pouring into other people that we don't prioritize pouring back into ourselves. And so just because you're educated, mental illness knows no bounds, knows no demographics, knows no barriers. I think that substance abuse, I think that addiction is a coping skill gone wrong based on the way that your body and your brain digest the particular chemical that you become addicted to. And I think that food is the same. Bodies digest food differently. There are some like cut and dry rules, period, end of story. But every body needs something different based on the context of where it's been and how it's currently existing, which I'm not going to know that information, but you guys might. You might be able to say, oh, well, you're experiencing high rates of stress at your job right now. Maybe this isn't the best for your body right now. Maybe it's not going to do the best job of digesting this the way that it's supposed to. Perhaps maybe go with this. I don't know how to give that feedback about how to have the body be more efficient and effective when it's breaking down your food, but you guys do.
And to back up your point on dietitians not eating perfectly, I live on the border of South Carolina and Georgia. I promise nobody around here knows what healthy eating is. It's as inescapable as it is in just to eat healthy, or just to, as much as you can't avoid eating the unhealthy foods in America, it's compounded down here in the heart disease belt.
Yeah. I like that.
So it's, your dietitians aren't eating perfectly. They're not going to judge you for not eating perfectly, because chances are they're going to have Pizza Hut waiting for them at home because they've had a busy day. Like, I mean, you're still people. It's just like mental health professionals sometimes have the worst coping mechanisms. I mean, I went to Krispy Kreme this morning, for God's sake. Like, I got up, my fiance was like, hey, let's go get donuts. I was like, I don't feel like saying no. So
yeah. And I think sometimes I have a cousin who's she's a registered dietitian with WIC up in Columbus, Ohio. And the thing that I've noticed about her that I don't do so well is that she does a much better job of taking her education and using her education to learn to be in balance, how to have, I don't want to call them cheat meals, how to have unhealthy foods, but then balance that out with other healthy, well-balanced, nutritionally important foods. Whereas me, I'm like, well, I'm hungry and I've just bought an air fryer, so I guess I'm making chicken nuggets. Do you know what I'm like?
Air fryers are pretty awesome.
Yeah. So I think, the thing that I have noticed about her in particular is she seems to do a much better job being in balance, which the point of long-term recovery for somebody from substance use addiction for us at the agency is teaching them how to live in balance, how to not get lost in the temporary emotions or temporary experiences and then make long-term decisions based on that. So if we transition that over to conversation about food, you had a bad day. Okay, let's look at all of the options that we have. Maybe not even just options of what to put in your body, but what to do with our bodies. Do we take that bad day and do we go exercise? Do we go through McDonald's? Do we go home and drink a bottle of wine? Do we call the hookup? There's a bunch of different choices that you can make there. And it's about learning to live in balance.
What I kind of look at counseling is helping people tolerate the discomfort. Recovering from a food addiction or just unhealthy eating is tolerating the discomfort that typically leads to eating the wrong ways or, the unhealthy ways and things like that. You can't have one without the other. There's no separation.